The silver vessel hung in space like a jewel, its smooth surface reflecting the blue and green planet below. Inside the Galactic Federation ship Harmony's Promise, Ambassador checked her appearance one final time. Her skin shimmered with the traditional oils of ceremony, and her four arms adjusted the diplomatic sash across her narrow chest. Today would mark a historic moment. Today, the Federation would welcome its member species. Ambassador, the human vessel is approaching, her assistant chirped from the doorway. Turned, her large eyes blinking slowly. She had studied the preliminary reports about these creatures. Humans. They called their world Earth, a modest planet that had only just discovered faster-than-light travel. The scans showed them to be bipedal, carbon-based, and remarkably similar to dozens of other species already in the Federation. Primitive but trainable. They would make adequate members once properly guided. The human ship appeared on the. It was ugly by Federation standards, all hard angles and brutal efficiency. The name painted on its hull read Soul Rising, wrinkled her nose, such aggressive aesthetics. Still, many young species went through this phase. Open a communication channel, she ordered. The screen flickered and a human face appeared. Captain, according to the files. He had dark hair, sharp eyes, and a strange firmness to his expression that made slightly uncomfortable. But she smiled with all three of her mouths. Greetings, Captain. On behalf of the Galactic Federation, I welcome you and your species to the community of civilized worlds. Nodded once. Thank you, Ambassador. We're honored. My crew is preparing for the ceremonial transfer. Doctor will be joining you shortly. Excellent. We have prepared a grand celebration aboard the Harmony's Promise. Your people will find our hospitality most. A sharp alarm cut through her words. Red lights flashed across the bridge of the Federation vessel. His assistant rushed to a console, her scales turning pale with fear. Ambassador, micrometeorite strike, hull breach in Section 7. Panic swept through the bridge, felt her three hearts racing. A hull breach was a death sentence. The precious atmosphere would escape into space. They had perhaps minutes before. We're coming over. His voice cut through the chaos, calm as still water. Hold tight. Hold tight, wanted to scream. This wasn't a minor issue. This was a catastrophe, but before she could respond, the communication cut off. She watched the human ship move with shocking speed. It slammed alongside the Harmony's Promise with a clang that shook the entire vessel. Were they trying to kill everyone? The airlock hissed open. Three humans in pressure suits walked through, carrying equipment. The lead figure pulled off his helmet, revealing Captain's face. He wasn't even breathing hard. Where's the breach? He asked simply. Pointed with a trembling arm toward Section 7. But you can't. The vacuum. You'll need full environmental support and was already walking away. He grabbed a cylindrical container from one of his crew members and disappeared down the corridor. Watched the security footage in horror as the human captain entered Section 7. Atmosphere was already escaping through a fist-sized hole in the hull. The pressure was dropping rapidly. Any member of her crew would be dead in seconds. Pulled a strange foam dispenser from his belt and began sealing the breach. He worked methodically, as if he were fixing a leaky pipe in a garden, not standing in a room bleeding air into the void of space. The foam expanded, hardened, and the breach sealed. 17 seconds from start to finish. When returned to the bridge, stared at him with all three mouths hanging open. You were exposed to vacuum, you should be dead. Your blood should have boiled. Your lungs should have. I held my breath, said with a small shrug. Wasn't that long, maybe 15 seconds. 15 seconds in vacuum. Is there a problem? A younger human appeared beside, the name tag on his suit read. He smiled broadly at the assembled aliens. Captain's tough. You should see what he does for morning exercise. Me, I'm not as resilient. Last month I crashed a shuttle into the ocean from about 50 meters up. Hurt like hell for a week. medical officer, a spindly creature named, swayed on his 6 legs, 50 meters, into water that would liquefy your internal organs. Laughed. It was a warm sound, but somehow it made scales crawl. Nah, just broke a few ribs and got a concussion. I was back to work in 3 weeks. Another human, this one female, extended her hand toward. I'm doctor. I apologize for the rough introduction. When we detected your emergency, we responded with standard protocols. Standard protocols. The words echoed in his mind. These creatures treated vacuum exposure and high-velocity impacts as routine matters. Looked around the Federation bridge with curious eyes. Your ship is beautiful, so smooth and elegant. I noticed your artificial gravity is set quite low, about 0.4 standard units. That is standard for most civilized species, managed to say. Only the barbarians use higher gravity, and they're little more than pirates. What do they use? Nearly 0.8 units. It's considered brutally high. Nodded thoughtfully. Earth's natural gravity is about 1 units, but we can adapt to your settings easily enough. Makes walking feel bouncy, like being on the moon. The moon had read about Earth's moon. It had 0.16 gravity. These creatures lived at 6 times that force every single day of their lives. The ceremonial dinner that evening was a disaster, though not in any way the Federation had anticipated. The humans ate and drank with enthusiasm, complimenting the food. But every casual comment revealed new horrors. This reminds me of camping in the mountains, said cheerfully, biting into a protein wafer. Though we have to watch out for bears there. Bears asked. Big predators, about 400 kilograms, sharp claws, lots of teeth. They'll eat you if you're not careful. And you camp where these creatures hunt. Sure, it's fun. You just keep your food sealed up and make noise so they know you're there. Most of them avoid humans anyway. Doctor laughed. Tell them about the time you ran into that mountain lion. Oh, that. Yeah, I was jogging and came around a corner face to face with a big cat. We stared at each other for maybe 5 seconds, then it ran off, probably more scared of me than I was of it. Excused herself early, claiming a headache. In her private quarters, she pulled up Earth's planetary data for the first time, really looking at the details, not just the summary. Atmospheric pressure, 1 standard units. Most Federation species preferred 0.6. Oxygen concentration, 21%, enough to cause cellular damage in most species over time. Native predators, thousands of species, many venomous, some weighing over 5,000 kilograms. Weather patterns included electrical storms, wind speeds over 300 kilometers per hour, temperature variations of 100 degrees. Felt her 3 mouths go dry. She opened a secure channel to the Federation Science Council. Emergency classification request, she transmitted, requesting full planetary analysis of Sol 3, designation Earth, possible classification. The response came back in minutes. The Science Council would convene immediately. As prepared her report, she could hear the humans laughing in the dining hall, swapping stories about shark diving and volcano hiking, and something called Australian wildlife. Each story made her scales itch more. The Federation had welcomed dozens of species to their peaceful coalition. But now, for the first time in her career, wondered if they had just invited something dangerous into their midst. Not dangerous because humans were violent or cruel, but dangerous because they came from a world that should have killed them 1,000 times over, and they were too cheerful to realize it. The Federation Science Council chamber was built to inspire calm and rational thought. Soft blue lighting filtered through crystalline walls, and the air carried the gentle scent of peace flowers. But today, calm was nowhere to be found. Director L's tentacles quivered as he reviewed the data streaming across his screen. His skin had turned a sickly gray color, which his species displayed when terrified. Around the circular table, Representatives from 40 different worlds muttered in their various languages, creating a discordant symphony of worry. "Order," El called out, his voice translator making him sound shrill. "We must have order." The chamber quieted. On the central display, an image of Earth rotated slowly. It looked so peaceful from space, wrapped in white clouds and blue oceans. Deceptive. That was the word that kept running through El's mind. "We have asked Doctor of Earth to present information about her," El announced. "I remind everyone that humans are our guests and are to be treated with full diplomatic courtesy, regardless of what we learn today." Doctor entered the chamber with two other humans. She smiled warmly at the assembled aliens, seemingly unaware of the tension in the room. The male beside her was introduced as Minu, a marine biologist. The female was an emergency medical technician. Both appeared relaxed and friendly. "Thank you for inviting us," said, her voice clear and pleasant. "We're excited to share information about Earth. I've prepared a standard planetary overview." The first slide appeared. It showed Earth's basic statistics. "Our planet is about 4.5 billion years old," began. "It has one large moon, which creates tidal effects in our oceans. The gravity is 1 standard units, which we consider normal, of course." A scientist raised one of her 4 arms. "Doctor, at 1 gravity, how do your bones not fracture under the constant strain?" Looked puzzled. "Fracture. Our bones are quite strong. They have to support our body weight and movement. Children do sometimes break bones when they fall, but they heal in a few weeks." "Weeks," the gasped. "Bone regeneration takes months, even with advanced medical care." "Oh," said, making a note on her data pad. "That's interesting. I'll add that to our comparative biology file." She moved to the next slide, which showed Earth's atmosphere composition. "We breathe an oxygen-nitrogen mix. About 21% oxygen, 78% nitrogen, with trace gases." The entire chamber erupted in hisses and clicks. A reptilian scientist stood up, his scales rattling. 21% oxygen. That concentration would cause oxidative cellular damage. It's poisonous. Tilted her head. "Poisonous, but we need it to live. Our cells use oxygen for energy production, don't yours?" "At 12% concentration, maybe 14% at most, 21% would destroy cellular structures." "Huh," said, making another note. She seemed more curious than concerned. This somehow made El more nervous. Minu stepped forward. "May I add something? I work with marine life and our oceans are fascinating. We have organisms living at depths of over 10,000 meters where the pressure is incredible, and I personally dive to study coral reefs." "You dive?" asked the aquatic species representative. "How deep?" "I'm certified for 40 meters, but I usually work around 20 to 30 meters. It's beautiful down there. You have to watch for sharks, though." "Sharks?" "Predatory fish. Some species grow over 6 meters long. Beautiful creatures, mostly harmless to humans unless you're unlucky or doing something stupid." El felt faint. "You swim in water with 6-meter predators?" "Sure," Minu said with a grin. "Like I said, they mostly leave us alone. I'm more worried about jellyfish, honestly. Got stung by a box jellyfish once. That was unpleasant." A medical officer immediately pulled up information on box jellyfish. The color drained from her face. "This venom, it says here it can kill a human in minutes. You survived." "Yeah, it was touch and go for a bit. Spent a week in the hospital. The antivenom helped a lot." Stepped forward now, her friendly smile still in place. "I can speak to that, actually. I work in emergency medicine, so I treat a lot of injuries. Animal attacks, accidents, that sort of thing." "What kind of accidents?" El asked, dreading the answer. "Oh, the usual. Vehicle crashes, falls from height, industrial incidents. Last month I treated a construction worker who fell 3 stories, broke both legs and fractured his pelvis. He'll walk again in about 6 months. The medical officer looked like she might faint. Survived a fall from 3 stories. That's over 10 meters. 12 meters, actually, confirmed. Like I said, broke both legs, but humans are pretty resilient. I've treated people who survived much worse. Worse, Elle whispered. Well, there was a hiker who got attacked by a bear. Deep claw wounds, broken ribs, severe blood loss. We airlifted him to trauma care and he pulled through. He jokes about it now. The chamber had gone completely silent. Every alien was staring at the 3 humans with a mixture of horror and disbelief. Continued her presentation, seemingly oblivious to the growing panic. Earth has diverse climate zones. Our polar regions drop to minus 60 degrees Celsius, while our hottest deserts can reach 70 degrees. We have humans living in both extremes. That's a 130-degree temperature range, someone shouted. Yes, we're quite adaptable. Now our weather can be exciting. We get electrical storms with lightning bolts carrying billions of volts. Wind storms called hurricanes can have winds over 250 kilometers per hour. Tornadoes create focused wind funnels that destroy everything in their path. And in some regions, the ground shakes violently from tectonic activity. Elle had to grip the table to stay upright, and humans live through these events. Most of the time, said cheerfully. We've developed warning systems and building techniques. Deaths from natural disasters have dropped significantly in recent decades. Deaths have dropped, Elle repeated numbly, meaning they still occur. Well, yes, nature is powerful. You can't prevent every tragedy. A small alien in the back spoke up, his voice trembling. Doctor, what do humans do for recreation? Surely you have safe activities. Minyu laughed. Lots of things, sports mostly. Soccer, basketball, combat sports like boxing or martial arts. Mountain climbing is popular, skydiving, cave diving. Oh, and extreme sports like base jumping or free climbing. I don't know what any of those words mean, the small alien said, but they all sound terrifying. Pulled out her personal data pad. Want to see pictures? This is from my last vacation. I went whitewater rafting in rapids. She passed the pad around. Each alien who looked at it made a sound of distress. The image showed in a small boat being thrown through violent, churning water surrounded by jagged rocks. For fun, someone asked weakly. It's thrilling, said with enthusiasm. Moved to her final slide. Oh, and I should mention human diet. We're omnivores, so we eat both plants and animals. We've also developed a taste for certain substances that are technically toxic, but in small doses create pleasant sensations. Toxic substances? Elle asked. Caffeine for energy. Capsaicin, which creates a burning sensation we find enjoyable. Alcohol, which is literally a poison but in moderate amounts causes relaxation and social bonding. You consume poison for fun. When you put it that way, it sounds bad, admitted. But yes, basically. After the humans left, the Science Council sat in stunned silence for a full minute. Finally, Elle activated the classification system. His tentacles shook as he entered the data. Earth classification, Class 12, highest danger rating. This is the first Class 12 world to produce sapient life in Federation records. A young scientist raised her claw. Director, what do we do now? These humans seem friendly, even kind, but they come from a world that should be impossible. They survive things that would kill us instantly. They consume poison for recreation. They swim with predators. They don't even realize how terrifying they are, Elle finished. That's what worries me most. The Science Council voted to send a full report to the Federation High Command. The question wasn't whether to accept humans into the Federation anymore. The question was how to integrate a species that considered deadly situations to be normal life, and did so with a smile on their faces. The research vessel Scientific Endeavor drifted through the system. its sensors scanning an unusual asteroid field. Inside, a mixed crew of humans and Federation scientists worked side by side, still adjusting to each other's presence. 3 weeks had passed since the Science Council's classification, and tensions remained high. Checked the security monitors from his station near the bridge. He was a security officer, though the Federation crew seemed to think the title was ceremonial. After all, what threats existed in civilized space? He didn't bother correcting them. Let them think what they wanted. Contact, the sensor operator chirped. Multiple vessels emerging from the asteroid field. The bridge erupted into panic. Captain Al, a four-armed, stared at the display in horror. Pirates, 7 ships, we're doomed. Stood calmly and walked to the weapons console. How many crew members are on each ship? What does that matter? Al wailed. They are the most vicious raiders in the galaxy. They've never been defeated. They'll enslave us all. How many? Repeated. 20 to 30 per ship, perhaps 200 total. Nodded, he tapped his communicator. We've got pirates, you ready? Always, came the reply. Was the ship's systems engineer, a former competitive martial artist who had gotten bored with Earth and joined the space program. How many? About 200. Oh, so it's a light day. I'll grab my toolkit. Al stared at toolkit. You're going to fight pirates with tools. Among other things. The ship surrounded the scientific endeavor in a classic pirate formation. A face appeared on the reptilian features twisted in a cruel grin. Pirate Lord. Federation vessel, you will power down and prepare to be boarded. Resist and die. Your choice is simple. Al reached for the power controls, but placed a hand on his shoulder. The gentle touch somehow felt like iron. We'll be boarding you, said calmly into the communicator. Surrender now and you might survive. Laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. Brave words, Federation coward. We'll enjoy breaking you. The communication cut off. Turned to the human crew members scattered throughout the ship. There were only 12 humans aboard, compared to 40 Federation personnel and 200 pirates. He spoke into the ship-wide channel. All human crew, weapons free. Rules of engagement. Protect the ship and the Federation crew. Try to take prisoners if possible, but don't risk yourselves. Standard boarding defense protocol. Arrived on the bridge carrying what looked like a heavy wrench. She smiled at the terrified aliens around her. Don't worry, we've trained for this. Trained? Al gasped. You train for pirate attacks. How often does Earth get attacked by pirates? Oh, we don't have space pirates on Earth, said cheerfully. But we have lots of practice with combat scenarios. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We're pretty good at it. This did not comfort anyone. The boarding pods slammed into the hull like hammers. Explosive bolts blew open airlocks. The first wave of pirates poured in, 40 strong, armed with plasma weapons and blades. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met resistance. They met in Corridor 3. The first pirate raised his weapon but was faster, much faster. He moved like water flowing around the plasma bolt, and his fist connected with the pirate's jaw. There was a sickening crack and the collapsed. 2 more rushed him, grabbed one by the arm and used the pirate's own momentum to throw him into his companion. Both went down hard. Impossible, one of the remaining pirates shouted. No one moves that fast. The gravity on this ship should slow you down. Smiled, it wasn't a friendly smile. This is 0.8 gravity. I train at 1.2. He moved through them like a storm. They were experienced fighters, but they had never faced anything like this. Every punch from hit with devastating force. Every block was perfectly timed. Within 2 minutes, all 40 pirates in Corridor 3 were unconscious or groaning on the floor. In engineering, faced a different group. The pirates had tried to sabotage the engines, but she had other plans. When the first tried to shoot her, she simply moved aside. The plasma bolt hit the wall behind her, melting metal. You missed, she observed. Impossible. No one dodges plasma fire. Shrugged, I played dodgeball in school. This is easier, slower projectiles. She swung her wrench in a wide arc. It connected with a support beam that the pirates were standing under, and the impact sent vibrations through the metal. The beam groaned and shifted. The pirates scattered, losing their formation. Used the confusion to move. She was fast, graceful, and absolutely relentless. One pirate tried to stab her with a blade. She caught his wrist, twisted, and the blade clattered to the floor. A simple throw sent him into two of his companions. The engineer watching on security feeds couldn't believe it. She's using basic strength to tear through our formations. How is she that strong? She's from a high-gravity world, one of his companions said weakly. They're all from a high-gravity world. Throughout the ship, the story was the same. 12 humans faced 200 pirates and won. Not just won, but dominated. They had weapons, numbers, and experience. The humans had been forged on a planet that tried to kill them every day. But the real horror came in Corridor 7. The pirates had released a toxin, a gas that would kill most species in seconds. 3 human crew members were trapped inside. They watched the monitors, waiting for the humans to collapse. Instead, the humans held their breath and kept fighting. For 3 minutes, they moved through the poisoned corridor, taking down pirates, sealing the gas leak, all without breathing. When they finally cleared the corridor and restored normal atmosphere, they simply gasped a few times and continued on. 3 minutes without breathing, a warrior screamed. That's not possible. We need breath every 30 seconds. Maybe you do, one of the humans replied, tying up unconscious pirates. The final confrontation came at the main airlock. Pirate Lord himself led 20 of his best warriors against. They came at him all at once, a coordinated assault that would overwhelm any single fighter. But wasn't just any fighter. He was a human who had grown up at 1 gravity, who had trained in combat sports, who came from a species that had spent perfecting the art of violence. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, lay on the deck, his weapon in pieces, 3 of his arms broken, stood over him, barely breathing hard. Hal gasped, how can flesh and bone be so strong? You ever fight on a planet with 1 gravity? Asked. Where the air itself is slightly toxic and the wildlife wants to eat you, where every day is a battle just to survive. No, such a world would kill us. It made us, said simply. He hauled the pirate lord to his feet. Now you're under arrest, you and your entire crew. On the bridge, Al and the Federation crew watched in absolute silence as the security feeds showed the aftermath. Unconscious or restrained pirates everywhere. 12 humans, not one seriously injured. Some had cuts or bruises. Was rubbing her shoulder where she had taken a glancing plasma hit, but she was laughing about it. I need to upgrade my armor, she said to another human. That actually stung. That plasma bolt would have killed me instantly, a Federation engineer whispered. She said it stung. She's complaining it stung. Word of the battle spread through galactic networks faster than light. Video footage from the ship's security systems went viral across 1,000 worlds. The images were impossible to deny. Humans moving with incredible speed. Humans fighting in conditions that should kill them. Humans holding their breath for minutes while engaging in combat. In the Federation High Command, emergency meetings ran for days. The debate was no longer about whether to accept humans. The debate was about what humanity represented. They could conquer the entire Federation if they wanted, one admiral said quietly. But they don't want to, another replied, playing the footage of carefully restraining instead of killing him. They could have slaughtered the pirates. Instead, they took prisoners. With mercy, someone mused. I'm not sure if that makes them more or less terrifying. On the scientific endeavor, filed his incident report while applied ice to her shoulder. The Federation crew gave them a wide berth, still processing what they had witnessed. "Think we it?" asked. Shrugged, "We protected the ship and took prisoners. That's what security officers do. On Earth, maybe. Out here, I think we might have just redefined what's normal." They could see Federation security vessels arriving to take the pirates into custody. The galaxy would remember this day. The day it learned that the friendliest, most cheerful species in the Federation was also the most dangerous. And the humans still didn't understand what the fuss was about. The emergency broadcast reached Earth's orbital command center at 300 hours. Commander read the message twice, unable to believe what she was seeing. The Federation colony was dying. Massive volcanic eruptions had turned the planet's surface into hell. Toxic gases filled the atmosphere. The temperature had spiked to levels that would cook most Federation species alive. 12,000 colonists were trapped in underground bunkers, and those bunkers were failing. The Federation had declared evacuation impossible. They were sending counselors to help the colonists make peace with their fate. "No," said aloud, her voice echoing in the empty command center. "Absolutely not." She opened a channel to Earth's Disaster Response Corps. Within an hour, she had volunteers. Within 6 hours, 3 human ships were launching toward. The travel time would be 30 hours at maximum speed. The Federation tried to stop them. "Commander," Governor's image appeared on her screen, his face twisted with grief and confusion. "I appreciate the gesture, but you'll be flying to your deaths. The surface conditions are beyond any rescue protocol." Pulled up the data on its current state. Surface temperature 80 degrees Celsius, sulfur dioxide at 400 parts per million, seismic activity registering 6 on the magnitude scale. She looked back at the governor. "Have you seen Earth's environmental extremes?" Yes, but this is different. This is an active disaster zone." "Governor, we have active volcanoes on Earth. We have deserts that reach 70 degrees. We work in industrial environments with toxic gases, and we've been dealing with earthquakes for our entire existence as a species." She leaned forward. "This is what we do. This is what we're good at." "But your environmental suits are designed for worse," interrupted. "We'll be fine. Just keep those colonists alive until we get there." The transmission ended. Sat in his office, surrounded by messages from desperate colonists saying goodbye to their families. He wanted to hope, but hope seemed cruel when it would only lead to more deaths. The human ships arrived 30 hours later. His team was first to break atmosphere, and the view outside their windows made several crew members whistle in appreciation. "Now that's a proper volcano," said from the co-pilot seat. He was a rescue specialist, a former firefighter from who had walked into burning buildings for 20 years before joining the space program. "Reminds me of the Kilauea eruption back in 22. "Except this one's planet-wide," replied, checking their descent path. "And we're going right into it." The ship shuddered as it hit turbulence. Ash clouds battered the hull. The temperature gauges climbed steadily. In the passenger compartment, 30 human rescue workers checked their equipment with calm efficiency. The team's lead medic ran through her checklist one more time. Medical supplies, emergency oxygen, thermal blankets rated for extreme heat. She had packed everything based on disaster scenarios from Earth. Earthquake response, volcano rescue, industrial accidents. The Federation might think this was unprecedented, but humans had been saving each other from nature's fury for thousands of years. The first bunker was in the worst shape. It housed 500 colonists, mostly families with young children. The entrance had partially collapsed, and toxic gases were seeping in through cracks in the walls. The Federation had given them 6 hours before the life support failed completely. His team landed 200 meters away, as close as they dared. The ground shook constantly, a low rumble that never stopped. The sky was black with ash. Rivers of lava glowed in the distance. "All right, people," said into her headset. "Standard disaster protocol, teams of 4. Watch your gas monitors. If your suit integrity drops below 80%, you pull back. We're here to save them, not join them." "Yes, ma'am," came the chorus of replies. They exited the ship into hell. The heat hit like a physical force. Even through their environmental suits, they could feel it. The ground beneath their feet was hot enough to melt the boots of most species. The air was thick with particles that would shred unprotected lungs. Led his team to the collapsed entrance. The Federation emergency channel crackled with frantic messages. "Human team, please reconsider. The structural integrity is compromised. You'll be buried alive." "Copy that," replied cheerfully. "We'll be careful." He examined the collapse with experienced eyes. Rock and metal twisted together, blocking the entrance but not completely. There was a way through. There was always a way through if you were willing to work for it. "Manual excavation," he announced. "Just like the Seoul subway collapse in 28, remember that training." His team remembered. They began to dig. For 14 hours, they dug through superheated rock and twisted metal. The temperature inside their suits climbed to 45 degrees Celsius. They rotated shifts, working 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off. During their breaks, they drank water and stretched, treating it like a difficult but manageable job. The Federation observers watched in disbelief as humans worked in conditions that should kill them. One by one, the other human teams reached their assigned bunkers and began similar operations. Inside the bunkers, the colonists huddled in terror, waiting to die. Then they heard sounds from above, drilling, cutting, voices calling down in Federation standard language. "Hello down there, human rescue team, we're coming to get you." The first colonists emerged after 16 hours. Personally carried out a child who was too weak to walk, protecting her from the toxic air with his own body positioned as a shield. The child's mother collapsed in relief, unable to believe they were alive. "How?" she kept asking. "How can you breathe in this? How can you move in this heat?" Smiled behind his helmet. "This is bad, but it's not the worst I've seen. You should see industrial fires back home." Set up a mobile medical station near the ships. Colonists streamed in with various injuries and illnesses. Dehydration, heat exhaustion, respiratory problems from gas exposure, injuries from the initial quakes. She worked for 20 hours straight, treating patient after patient. Her hands never shook. Her focus never wavered. When a Federation medic tried to insist she rest, she just laughed. "I once worked a 30-hour shift during a hurricane disaster. This is actually more organized." She checked another patient's vital signs. "Besides, these people need help. I'll rest when everyone's safe." The most dramatic rescue came on the second day. A bunker housing 200 colonists, mostly children from a Federation school, was buried under a massive rock slide. The entrance was gone. The ventilation was failing. The children had perhaps 4 hours of air left. His team assessed the situation. Digging from above would take too long. The rock layer was too thick, too unstable. They needed another approach. "We go through the maintenance tunnels," decided, studying the bunker's schematics. "Those tunnels are flooded with toxic gas," a Federation engineer protested. "Sulfur dioxide levels are fatal. You need to hold your breath for over 10 minutes to reach the bunker." Looked at her team. Who's good for 10 minutes? Every hand went up. They entered the tunnels in teams of 2. The gas was so thick it was visible, a yellow-green fog that would dissolve lung tissue in seconds. The humans simply took deep breaths, sealed their mouths, and walked into it. 10 minutes of holding your breath while doing physical labor would be impossible for most species. For humans who had trained in underwater rescue, who had practiced breath holding since childhood, it was difficult but doable. They reached the bunker, used a portable cutting torch to open an emergency access panel. The children on the other side stared at the humans emerging from the toxic fog like ghosts, like legends, like miracles. "Hi there," said, his voice calm despite having held his breath for 8 minutes. "We're going to get you out. It's going to be scary, but you have to trust us. Okay." The evacuation was nightmarish. 2 children at a time, carried by humans who held their breath and shielded the kids with their bodies. Trip after trip through the poisonous tunnels. The humans rotated, giving each other time to breathe and recover between runs. It took 6 hours to evacuate all 200 children. Not one was lost. Governor watched the rescue operations from his ship in orbit. He watched humans work 18-hour shifts in 85-degree heat. He watched them dig through avalanches with their bare hands. He watched them carry colonists through toxic gas clouds without hesitation. After 72 hours, the evacuation was complete. 12,000 colonists saved. 0 human casualties, though several rescue workers needed treatment for exhaustion and minor burns. At the final briefing, addressed the human teams. His voice shook with emotion. "You flew into hell itself to save people you had never met. You worked without rest in conditions that should have killed you. He paused, searching for words. "You are guardian angels born from hell itself." Looked uncomfortable with the praise. "We're just rescue workers, Governor. This is what we do. On Earth, we have an old saying, leave no one behind. It doesn't matter if the disaster is a volcano, an earthquake, or a planet dying. If people need help, you help them." Added, "Besides, this wasn't that bad. Nobody got crushed. Nobody got swept away by lava. Actually pretty smooth operation, all things considered." The Federation colonists stared at him. This rescue, this impossible mission that had saved 12,000 lives, was a smooth operation by human standards. That night, the story spread across the galaxy. The who everyone feared had just proved they were the most heroic species in known space. They used their strength not to conquer, but to save. They walked through hell to carry others to safety. In the Federation High Command, the debate finally ended. Humanity would be welcomed with full membership. More than that, they would be honored. Feared, yes, but also trusted, respected, and desperately needed. Because sometimes the galaxy needed monsters, but it needed monsters who chose to be heroes. 6 months after the rescue, the Grand Federation Hall buzzed with activity. Representatives from 200 worlds gathered for what everyone called the most important vote in modern history. The question was simple: should humanity be granted full Federation membership? Admiral stood in the observation gallery, watching the delegates arrive. He had been promoted after the pirate incident, though he still felt more comfortable on a ship than in dress uniform. Beside him, Doctor reviewed her speech notes one last time. "Nervous?" asked. Smiled. "A little. Public speaking in front of 200 alien species. That's more stressful than vacuum exposure." Now a diplomatic pilot laughed from his position by the window. "At least they're not trying to kill us anymore. Most of them anyway." The hall was divided. Some species championed humanity's membership, pointing to the rescue and countless other incidents where humans had proved their value. Others feared that welcoming a species from a Class 12 would upset the balance of power. And some simply couldn't get past their terror of what humans represented. The vote was scheduled for noon. At 11:30, alarms began screaming. The Armada had arrived. Over 2,000 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. It was the largest military force assembled in Federation history, and it had one purpose: revenge for the humiliation of Pirate Lord. The commander broadcasted on all channels. His face appeared on every screen in the Grand Hall, a massive reptilian warrior with scars covering his scales. "Federation cowards, you hide behind monsters. You dishonor the ancient ways of combat. Today, we will burn your and enslave your people. And those humans you love so much. We will mount their heads on our ships as a warning." The transmission cut off. The fleet began moving toward the Federation at battle speed. They would arrive in 3 hours. Panic erupted in the Grand Hall. The Federation fleet numbered only 800 ships, spread across a dozen sectors. Even if they recalled every vessel, they couldn't match the numbers. And most Federation species had no stomach for real warfare. They had relied on diplomacy and economic pressure for so long that their military was largely ceremonial. Director L's tentacles shook as he addressed the assembly. We must evacuate begin civilian transports immediately. We cannot win this fight. Yes, you can. All eyes turned to Admiral. He walked calmly to the central podium and following behind. The Earth fleet is in this system, continued. We came for the vote. We can engage The Earth fleet is only 40 ships, someone shouted. 40 against 2,000, that's suicide. His expression didn't change. On Earth, we have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. We can buy you time to evacuate. Stepped forward. Admiral, you know the odds. 40 ships can't win against that fleet. Maybe not, admitted. But we can make them remember why you don't mess with. He turned to L. Give us tactical command. We'll show you what humans do when our friends are threatened. The Federation had no choice. They granted full authority. The Earth fleet formed up in orbit around the Federation. 40 ships against 2,000. The crew knew the odds. They volunteered anyway. On the bridge of his flagship Indomitable, addressed all 40 human crews. This isn't these aren't our families waiting below. But 6 months ago, the Federation welcomed us. They gave us friendship when they could have feared us. They trusted us when they could have isolated us. Today, we pay that trust back. On the Soul Rising, Captain commanded her vessel with calm precision. Beside her, manned the weapons console and stood ready at emergency medical. Just like home, said with a grim smile, running toward danger while everyone else runs away. That's the job, replied. The fleet arrived like a wall of steel and fury. Their commander laughed when he saw the 40 human ships positioned defensively. 40 ships, send 40 ships. We will crush them in minutes. He had never fought humans before. He was about to learn. The battle began with an alpha strike, thousands of plasma weapons firing simultaneously. It was enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The human ships scattered, moving with a grace and speed that seemed impossible for vessels their size. Evasive pattern Delta, commanded, maximum acceleration. The human ships pulled maneuvers that generated gravitational forces that would kill most species. Inside the vessels, human crews operated normally at 9, 12, even 15 for brief moments. Their bodies, forged at 1 gravity, could withstand the punishment. A captain watched in horror as a human destroyer pulled a turn that should have crushed its crew into paste. How are they still alive? Those G-forces should kill them. They're from a high-gravity world, his tactical officer replied weakly. They train for this. The human fleet punched through the formation like a knife through silk. Their weapons were less advanced than technology, but their targeting was perfect. Every shot counted. Every maneuver was precise. Fired the Soul Rising's main cannon, scoring a direct hit on a cruiser. That's for the colonists you tried to enslave. Throughout the battle, the humans displayed a level of coordination that stunned observers. They communicated in rapid-fire bursts, their brains processing information faster than most species could follow. They made split-second decisions that would take Federation commanders minutes to calculate. But 40 against 2,000 was still impossible odds. One by one, human ships took damage. The Indomitable lost shields. The Soul Rising took a hit that breached the hull in 3 sections. The destroyer Defiant had its engines damaged. But the humans kept fighting. On the Soul Rising worked the controls while alarms screamed around her. Hull breach on decks 7 through 9. Crew, seal those sections. "We've got injured in Deck 7, someone shouted. "Then treat them there," snapped back. "I'm not letting some plasma fire keep me from my patients." She ran through depressurizing corridors, her emergency suit barely holding together, and began treating wounded crew members while the ship shuddered around her. She set bones while the walls shook. She stopped bleeding while explosions rocked the vessel. The Federation observers watched in absolute shock as injured human crews continued fighting. A pilot with a broken arm still flew evasive maneuvers. An engineer with burns across half her body still routed power to weapons. A tactical officer continued firing despite bleeding from a head wound. "They don't stop," Director L whispered. "They simply don't stop." 2 hours into the battle, the human fleet had destroyed or disabled 400 ships, but they were dying. 3 human vessels had been destroyed. 10 more were barely functioning. The commander opened a channel, confident in his victory. "Surrender, humans. You fought well, but this ends now." His face appeared on screen, blood running down from a cut on his forehead. Behind him, his bridge was wrecked, but his crew still worked their stations. "You want to know what humans are?" asked. "We're the species that learned to survive on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We learned that protecting others is more important than protecting ourselves. We learned that giving up is never an option." He paused, checking his tactical display. The Federation evacuation was 90% complete, almost done. "We're the species that runs into burning buildings to save strangers, that dives into poisonous gas to rescue children, that stands between evil and the innocent every single time, no matter the cost." Smiled, and it was fierce. "You picked the wrong species to threaten." The Indomitable surged forward at maximum acceleration, straight at the flagship. Around it, the remaining 37 human ships formed up in a final charge. "All ships ramming speed," commanded. "Let's show them what it means to be a—" But before the ships could collide, new contacts appeared on sensors. Hundreds of them. The Federation fleet had arrived, recalled from every corner of their territory, and they weren't alone. The who everyone thought were too peaceful to fight had armed their merchant vessels. The colonists, still recovering from the volcano, had sent every ship they could fly. Species from across the Federation, inspired by human courage, had come to fight. "We will not let humans stand alone," Governor broadcasted. "They saved our children, they bled for our worlds. Today we fight together." The battle turned. The surrounded and outmatched began to retreat. Their commander's last transmission was a mixture of rage and fear. "You have not seen the last of the—" "Yeah, we have," muttered, firing one last shot that clipped the fleeing flagship. "Run away, cowards." The victory celebration lasted for days. The Federation formally granted humanity full membership with a unanimous vote. But more than that, they established what they called the Accord, officially recognizing that humans saw danger differently because Earth had forged them in fire. In the Grand Hall, now repaired from battle damage, gave her acceptance speech. She stood before representatives from 200 worlds, many of whom now wore human-inspired uniforms in solidarity. "When we first came to the stars, you were terrified of us. You saw us survive vacuum and call it Tuesday. You watched us fight in conditions that should kill us. You witnessed us consume poison for fun," she smiled. "And you weren't wrong to be scared. We are dangerous. Our world made sure of that." She paused, looking out at the assembled aliens. "But our world also taught us something else. It taught us that life is precious because it's fragile, that protecting others is what separates people from monsters, that the strong have a duty to shield the weak." His voice grew stronger. "You were afraid we were monsters from a nightmare world, but every nightmare we survived taught us to value life more, not less. Every challenge Earth threw at us made us more determined to protect each other. We didn't become heroes despite being from a, we became heroes because of it." The hall erupted in applause. Even species that had opposed humanity's membership now stood and cheered. Months later, and stood together on a Federation space station, watching Earth rotate below. Around them, alien children played without fear, laughing with human crew members who taught them games from Earth. Ambassador, who had first greeted humanity with condescending kindness, approached with genuine respect in her eyes. "I was wrong about your species," she said quietly. "I thought you needed guidance, protection. I didn't understand that you were the ones who would end up protecting us." Grinned, "To be fair, we didn't know we were special either. We just thought everyone survived like we do." "That's what makes you remarkable," replied. "You don't even realize how exceptional you are." In the years that followed, humanity became the Federation's premier defense and rescue force. Human-alien mixed crews became standard, with humans teaching other species their techniques while learning alien technology in return. Earth remained classified as a Class 12, the most dangerous planet in known space. But now, when aliens spoke of it, they did so with respect and admiration. The nightmare world had produced the galaxy's most loyal protectors. And humanity, finally understanding what they represented to the wider universe, embraced their role. They were survivors, they were heroes. But most importantly, they were friends. And in a galaxy that had forgotten what it meant to stand together against darkness, that might have been the most extraordinary thing of all.